My granddaughter, Harper, thumped her sippy cup on the placemat in tiny militant applause. Ellen laughed. He still loves a bargain. What about that coupon you keep in your wallet, Marcus? For the dry cleaner that closed in 2009. She smiled as if we were old friends trading gentle jabs. Ellen, with the apricot nail polish and the founder's aura, seated at my kitchen table in Reno as if she deigned the air to be breathed. My ex-wife had once said Ellen's generosity was a performance with a 7-figure budget. She was wrong about many things. Not that. I keep it for sentimental value, I said. I like to remember that once. Things cost less. I could feel my face arranging itself into the practiced grin, the peacemaker's grin, the grin that had kept marriages marginally intact and jobs marginally tolerable. Riley touched my wrist. We'll be late for Tao. Eat, eat, Harper echoed, solemn with authority. I have eaten, I said. Enough to be called ungrateful if I ask for water. Water's not a privilege here, Riley said, standing to pour it anyway. Brisk, efficient, golden hair and a messy bun that made her look younger and older at once. She had Ellen's cadence tonight, the boardroom staccato. It wasn't imitation. Children absorb rhythms by osmosis, even the ones you never intended them to hear. The roast chicken smelled of rosemary and lemon, the kitchen of starch and soap. The heater clanked in that familiar way. I'd never replaced the unit because the sound had become my domestic metronome. On the chair beside me lay my father's old pocket ledger, the black cover rubbed to blue at the edges. He'd used it to track shifts at the plant, and later I used it to track part-time jobs when we were sneaking by after the divorce. It was a ridiculous thing now, in an age of cloud platforms and dashboards. I kept it anyway. I kept it the way I kept that coupon. Not for bargains, for proof. Dad, Riley said, you heard the plan once. I want to run it by you again in the car. You'll run it by him, by all means, Ellen said, smiling. He's an elephant. He remembers everything. Elephants also grieve, I said, not loudly. It landed like a fork on plate. Ellen's smile hardened a degree. Riley glanced at me, then at Harper, then at Ellen. She redid the bun, buying seconds. We have to go, she said. Parking's a nightmare. The drive up the mountain was a silent ascent, the car filled with the things we hadn't said. In the rearview mirror, I could see Harper asleep in her car seat, her mouth a small O in the dim light. Ellen scrolled her phone beside me, the glow painting her nails blue. Riley gripped the wheel like she could bend the road to her will. And then we were there. At the Tahoe resort, the ballroom smelled of rented flowers and ambition. Men in suits like polished cars, women in silk that whispered strategy as they moved. Under the chandelier's false moon, a woman at registration looked down at a tray of printed name cards and pulled mine with 2 careful fingers. She didn't recognize me or pretended not to, which is a kind of power. The card read, Marcus Holly parent, obligation. The word sat in parentheses like a joke no one intended to be funny. Is this a category? I asked, though I knew. Families are important to the story, the woman said, meaning donors. So whenever possible, we note the relationship. Whose relationship? I asked. She didn't answer. In that quiet, a cold draft traced my spine, the sort of small shiver my body saves for moments of symbolic accuracy. Dad, Riley said, reading upside down. I watched her pass through a sequence of expressions. Shock, assessment, restraint. I'll fix it, she said. Marlene, she leaned toward the woman with professional brightness. We'll reprint. Printers are locked, Marlene said. For consistency, she wore a necklace as heavy as a verdict. Right parent by affection, I said. Then again, that's a lot of letters for a small humiliation. I slipped the card into my jacket pocket like contraband. Come on, Riley said through her teeth, gentle on the surface. Nothing ruins an evening like the small things. Small things ruin everything, I said. She flinched again. This was not the father she'd rehearsed for. I looked at Ellen, already across the room, swarmed by trustees. She didn't look back. After the speeches about legacy and the region we all love, after the video of smiling field workers and soluble hope, after the silent auction table with a signed hockey stick and a weekend in Napa and a painting of a river anyone could have painted if they'd wanted to, Riley took my elbow and guided me out to the terrace. "We can't keep the Drexlers," she said without preface, as if opening the window to let in air. The lake beyond us shone under winter's hard stars. "They've got side deals with cousins. There's padding and logistics. The community fund is a family ATM. We vote next month. I have the votes. I can take the chair. But I don't want to be the first Holly woman to take a broken ship just to prove I can sail." "You want me to take it," I said. "I want you to stand at the front," she said. "Say the words only you can say. You see into numbers like other men see faces. You always have. They'll listen to you because you don't ask for anything. And if they won't listen, you'll shame them." She paused, and then, lower, urgent, "I can shame them with data. But they'll say I'm emotional, ambitious, a daughter tearing down her father's friends. They can't say that to you. Your silence is your authority." My chest warmed and ached in the same instant, like standing too close to a winter fire. "That's two things," I said, "because I am a man who jokes when cornered, and because I didn't know how to hold the fact of being wanted by my daughter, not for my wallet, not for my compliance." Ellen appeared in the doorway, as if conjured by the need in Riley's voice. "We'll make history," she said. "Father and daughter cleaning house. It's tidy narrative." "I dislike tidy narratives," I said. "They fund the work," she said, efficient as a blade. Riley touched my arm. "I'll stand with you. I'll do the long haul. I just need you to go first, tonight." To say we're not afraid. It would have been so easy to nod, to go inside and take the microphone from the man with veneers and say firm, fatherly things. To be applauded for being brave after a lifetime of being polite. It would have quieted something small and hungry in me, something that had always looked up at taller men in better clothes as if they were weather. "No," I said. Riley blinked. Ellen's mouth twitched, less smile than tick. "I'll not be the man who proves his value from someone else's stage," I said. "I'll help you, but not like that." The words felt like a first true cigarette withheld, lungs asking, hands refusing. "Keep your chair. I'll be your ghost." Ellen made a small, dismissive sound, as if a napkin had fallen from the table. "He wants plausible deniability," she said to Riley. "He's protecting his reputation as a conscience without ever dirtying his hands." "I'll dirty my hands," I said, "just not my mouth." I began in warehouses along the Truckee River, where the smell of river mud and oil has seeped into cinder block-like theology. I went at night because men like me are allowed to be invisible at night. Hector, the foreman, had a back injury that never healed. He once played third base until his father's truck died. He taught me the way pallets lean like tired men and how inventory can vanish without moving. Maria, the janitor, had a laugh like August rain. She wanted nursing school but married a man who hated being left alone. She liked numbers because they didn't argue. She showed me the Thursday van, the cousin's signature, the scholarship fund that spat out ATM withdrawals like crumbs. Joe, a ghost employee, drew checks for 6 months. They funded a nephew's documentary about regional authenticity. Now he slept in a motel laundry room, shoes off, to save the solace. "You a cop?" he asked me once. "I'm a father," I said. Sometimes the same thing. At my kitchen table, I filled my father's ledger, the handwriting shrinking as if to fit more days inside. I tabbed binders, stapled contracts, traced the perfume of nepotism. When I had enough to sketch the Drexler's fraud like a constellation, I gave it to Riley in a paper bag, hidden in plain sight. "You're good," she said. "You're cruel." "I promised one condition," I said. "The trust will guarantee care, irremovable, clinics, mental health, dental, urgent, in every county we touch. Not a plaque, a phone number that answers." She was silent. "Then it'll make enemies." "Good," I said. Ellen appeared, later with wine. "There's a version of this where you and I are allies," she said. "There was a version of everything," I said. "My father was adored in public and cruel in private," she said. "Attention is a currency you mint yourself, or you spend your life in debt." She glanced at my ledger. "I know talismans. I want Riley not to become you," I said. She smiled, relief ghosting across. "We'll see." The ballroom in Reno was dressed like a promise. Rows of chairs bent toward a stage. I sat in the back, where ghosts sit. The Drexlers fell by vote, the applause polite and final. Ellen rose. With gratitude, I invite Riley Holley to lead us forward. She looked at me, the question in her eyes. Do you want this chair? I shook my head, slowly. She breathed in, breathed out, and went. Ellen found me after. You could have had it. I could have lost more if I had. You think you've won? No, I've stopped losing. Later, Riley pressed Harper into my arms. You scared me, Dad. But you were right. I was overdue, I said. In the months after, I didn't vanish. I became grit. I listened. Workers asked for chairs with backs, shifts that ended before dawn, a number that answered at 3 a.m. We built it. Imperfect. But Maria once called for her sister, and a voice answered, knew her name. She wept. That was enough. I asked for no badge. Only a desk in a corner and a phone. I picked it up when it rang. Sometimes that was everything. At night, I washed my hands of paper dust. The ledger lay closed, heavy with proof. I thought I was clean. My phone buzzed, a number I didn't know. Its vibration like a fly in a jar. My thumb hovered. Something. The hour, the flickering light, the silence of the shaft made me press answer. Mr. Holla? A woman's voice, so light and cold, seemed to condense in the air. Each word exact, as if read from a legal script. A voice without a mouth. How do you know what hasn't been sent? I asked. But what I meant was, who told you we were still small enough to scare? Because I wrote it, she said. And because your ledger has a page you forgot to photocopy. The one with the coffee stain in the corner, next to the entry for January 12th. The line went dead. The elevator hummed. A countdown. The doors stayed shut. I stood there, alone with the sterile silence and the weight of her words. The story wasn't finished. Not for them, not for me. I stayed inside the elevator long after the line went dead, as if the box itself had become the only honest room in the building. The light hummed. The panel's brushed steel reflected my face with the kind of kindness metals give the aging. A blur, merciful and impersonal. I pressed L out of habit. Then, 1, because I hate endings. Then let the car decide. It descended like a breath being counted out by a nurse you trust. I am 62. I have learned that dread is a tidy thing, folds into a pocket, goes where you go. On the sidewalk, the night air bit cleanly. I walked home without noticing the blocks. Windows lit up other people's rooms. A man ironing. A woman unwrapping a takeout container with devotional care. A dog looking at nothing as if it were an omen. I let myself into my apartment. I did not turn on the overheads. The kitchen light over the sink throws a golden wedge that makes the ledger's black cover look like a small door in a wall. I opened it and turned the pages until I found the gap I'd refused to name. Not a torn leaf, just the gentle slope of a missing tooth. I could feel where the page had been by the memory in my fingers. A faint slickness from coffee and time. January 12th, she had said, next to the coffee stain. I remembered the day. The smell of burnt toast. Riley had left early for a site visit, and Ellen had come by, unannounced, because proximity is half of leadership. And Harper had stood a foot from the refrigerator, repeating blueberries until I understood that repetition was the prayer of toddlers. I'd logged a delivery to the West Yard that didn't match the weight on the docket. A small thing. A small thing that could make everything tilt if you knew where to press. I slid the ledger back into its nest on the chair and took out the duplicates I'd made. Not of that page of everything around it. I touched the absence as if it might bruise me. Then I sat and did what I knew. I made a plan that didn't ask for applause. People believe information wants to be free. Information wants to be courted. It wants to be given to, listened to, and then made to sing. If it sings, it will betray you, but with perfect pitch. I pulled fresh paper and wrote 3 summaries of our work. They were true in essence and false in detail, each with a different tiny misalignment that looked like nothing and meant a lot. In one, the Thursday Van's plate ended in 81. In another, the scholarship fund's routing number had the final 2 digits reversed. In the third, a cousin's LLC had its filing date off by a day. Canary notes. Each version could survive in the wild and still leap back to its cage. I labeled the folders as if I were doing nothing more than the work. I always do, Trust forensics working draft. I addressed one to Ellen, one to Riley, one to a trustee named Alvarez, who smiled with his whole mouth and none of his eyes. I disliked treating Riley as a suspect. I disliked it and still did it. That is the kind of father I am. I guard by verifying because I have learned that love cannot be the only lock. I slept for an hour on the couch with the television pretending to watch me. At dawn, I carried the folders in a brown paper bag. I left Riley's on her porch with a text working draft. Eyes only, some loose and still loose. I handed Ellen's to her assistant in the lobby of a building named after a bank that had devoured 3 smaller banks to learn how to breathe underwater. For Ms. Gray, I said, and the assistant's smile said she had been instructed not to be charmed by men who knew file folder sizes. Alvarez's went to a P.O. box that I'd traced through tax documents to his golf club's valet stand because men like him confuse geography for discretion. Then I went to work. Not the office with the nice carpet and the view of I-80 cutting through other people's plans. My work happens where fluorescent lights are honest about their fatigue. Hector stood by the loading bay in a beanie that had given up its shape. "You look like a man who slept on a couch," he said. "I look like me," I said. He grinned. "Same thing." We walked the bay together. Pallet stows in a language you can learn if you pay attention. He showed me where the shrink wrap had been reapplied by a different hand. He told me about a new driver with a tattoo of a scorpion and a laugh that didn't reflect in his eyes. He didn't say the man scared him. He said, "He doesn't blink enough," and that was enough. In the break room, the hotline number we posted had already acquired fingerprints grease near the 7, a smudge trailing the 0. I like that. Smudges are intimate. They say someone believed the world might answer. Maria came in with a bag of oranges. She offered me one without asking, and I took it because refusing fruit is the first step toward cynicism. "I called last night," she said. "About my sister? Was the voice kind?" "The voice was awake," she said, "which is better, most nights, than kind." She peeled her orange in a single ribbon and handed me half. "There was a woman the other day," she added, looking at the peel as if it were a secret map. "Tall, hair like a helmet. Asked me where the shred bins go after they're full. Did you tell her?" "I told her what I tell men who want to know where things go. Away," I said. She laughed. August again. But she followed the bins with her eyes like a hunter follows a wounded animal. Did she carry a folder? A tote bag with a law firm's name. White letters. I don't read English fancy, but the letters had a way of thinking well of themselves. I thanked her and ate the orange and thought about law firms. The Drexlers had used a boutique outfit that billed in 6-minute increments and sent invoices that deserved their own frames. Ellen had her own set of lawyers. Sharp women with blunt jewelry. The board had counsel who specialized in emerging reputational risk, a phrase that means everything and nothing at once. The voice last night had articulated each syllable like it might be cross-examined. If you do this long enough, tone becomes a fingerprint. On my way out, I stopped by the night manager's desk. His name was Buck, though he was gentle and short and had a softness around the eyes that made the nickname an old joke that never hurt. Buck liked pens. He kept a row of them in a pottery mug his daughter made in 5th grade, each pen labeled with a piece of tape. He looked at me as if he had been waiting to share a confession and had finally found a priest who accepted confessions without eye contact. "Yesterday, a man came by to pick up decommissioned documents," he said. "Said he was with facilities, but his badge had a bubble under the laminate. He touched his own chest to demonstrate how the badge had looked wrong. He signed out a bin." "Which bin?" Buck's hand hesitated. "The one closest to accounting. Where's the log?" He handed it over. The signature read J. Larkin in a hand that did not match any of the Larkins I know, fictional or otherwise. The van plate was recorded as 6QT481. I filed the numbers where numbers live in me. Then I went to the alley and looked at the skid marks where a bin had caught on the lip of a loading ramp. Small things. Small things ruin everything, as I had said, and as the world keeps proving. On the walk back, I stopped at a copy shop that had outlived 3 technologies by loyalty alone. The bell over the door made a noise that suggested a childhood memory had been trapped in it. Nadine, who runs the place, is younger than my ledger and more stubborn. She cuts paper with a guillotine's focus and looks up at customers as if to warn them she will not be hurried. "Marcus," she said, as if we were picking up a conversation we'd left off in 2003. "I printed your church bulletin once." "I remember," I said. "You corrected an apostrophe and refused to apologize." Apostrophes are little moons. They mark possession. That bulletin wanted to be owned. She cocked her head. "You here for faxes, copies, or absolution?" "Copies," I said. "But not for me. I'm here about someone else's." She pursed her mouth. "My lips are sealed by a confidentiality agreement no one asked me to sign. Did anyone run jobs late last night?" "Large volume, heavyweight paper?" "3," she said, and gave me the kind of look that says I won't tell you unless you ask beautifully. I did not ask beautifully. I asked precisely. She respects that. "Describe them without identifying them," I said. "Tall woman, helmet hair, law firm tote with letters that thought well of themselves. Printed a packet with sticky notes that said, 'Exhibit,' in yellow. Brought her own paper bond, thick as ancestry. Paid in cash. Did the packet have a page with a coffee stain near the corner?" My voice was steady. My hands were not. Nadine's mouth tugged sideways. "You're good," she said. She asked me to print at 98% scale, so the smudge didn't smear on the roller. "People who want to hurt you will spend money to be gentle." Where'd she go after? "Out. Into a car that didn't belong to her." She got in the back. The driver looked like a man who had learned to be invisible before he learned to shave. I thanked her. She bent back over the cutter and sliced a stack of flyers so cleanly it felt like mercy. Outside, the sky was a patient gray. I texted Riley, "Any contact from board counsel today? Keep your version close." Then I deleted the text and sent a lighter one about dinner, because I am a coward in the ways that matter. At home, I spread my notes on the table. I drew arrows. I listed possibilities the way men list sins. The voice could be from the Drexler's lawyers, prodding me to flinch. It could be from the board's crisis team, testing how quickly I leaked panic. It could be Ellen herself. It was not that I suspected her out of habit. It was that she had told me such truths about herself that I would be an idiot not to include her in any theory of everything. There was also the possibility I didn't want to write, that someone who loved my daughter loved her advancement more than her father's peace. At noon, I walked to the trust office. I did not climb to the glossy floors. I went to the call center 2 levels down from Glory, where the hotline lives. The room was overlit with kindness. Lila, who supervises on day shift, has a voice like warm water. I'd hired her because she once told me she would rather be accurate than liked. And I thought, marry me, which is my way of saying thank God you exist. She waved me into her cube. "You look like you lost a page," she said. "I did," I said. She nodded as if I had told her something about the weather. "How can we help?" "The call last night," I said. "Landline to landline. Can we see incoming traffic around 11:23 p.m.? I don't need names." I smiled. "I never need names." She typed with 2 fingers in a rhythm I found soothing. "Blocked ID from a VoIP trunk," she said. "But," and she smiled slightly at the consonant, "the origin IP hops from a law firm I've seen in our filter list. Renshaw and Lee. They represent half the men who think the word integrity should be monogrammed. Board? Or Drexler?" "Drexler," she said. "Historically." What about the memo she claims she wrote? Lila tilted her head. "You believe people on the phone?" "I believe tone. Facts follow." She said wrote, not drafted, Lila said. "Lawyers say drafted, unless they want you to picture a fountain pen. Can we see if any large attachments?" "Hit our spam filters from that domain this morning?" "Already looked," she said, with a small, pleased impatience. "You trained me to anticipate." Nothing inbound. But another consonant she enjoyed. There were outbound forwards from a board account, time-stamped 7:12 a.m., to a burner address that deletes after download. "Which board account?" She met my eyes. "There are moments when people ask you to choose the world you want to live in. I can give you the first letter," she said. "That's enough." She said. "But A is a common letter in a crooked alphabet." "Thank you," I said. "If anyone asks, we talked about chair ergonomics." "Everyone should," she said. On the sidewalk, I counted trustees with A's in their names. Alvarez, Annika Shaw, Aaron with the perfect hair who never touches food at receptions. Also, Ellen's legal surname begins with G. She is not an O'Reilly, is not an A. For a moment, relief and dread collided, and dread won, as it usually does, because it trains better. I went to Alvarez first, because disdain is a fast horse. His office smelled like expensive humility, reclaimed wood, artisanal glass, a plant so green it must have been fake. He shook my hand as if our skin were a contract he could void. "Marcus," he said, oily with fraternity, "I heard you're the conscience, and you're the weather," I said. "It changes when you enter a room." He laughed as if I had intended to flatter him. I let him. "I wanted to be sure you received the latest working draft," I said. "Drafts come and go," he said, sitting in a chair that looked like it corrected posture and opinions. "I prefer results. Results are expensive," I said. "Drafts are how you learn the price." He tilted his head. "Was there something specific?" "Just a confirmation," I said. "Does the scholarship routing number end in 62? He blinked once. "I don't handle routing numbers," he said. "I handle people. People have routing numbers," I said. "They call them hearts." I stood. "Thank you for your time." He frowned delicately, and I left with the quiet thrill that comes from leaving a man alone with a question he suspects is an insult. Outside, I called Riley. She answered on the second ring. "I'm in a thing," she whispered. "Is this blood or water?" "Water," I said. "Check your draft. Keep it off shared drives. And do me a kindness. Ask your assistant not to print anything at copy shops with names that rhyme or try to be funny. Cameron prints on site," she said. "He also eats microwave fish in the break room, which I count as a moral failing. Keep him close," I said. And then, because I am a coward in the ways that matter, I added, "Tell Harper I'll bring blueberries." "Dad," she said. And in the half-second it took for the silence to bloom, I heard love and exasperation and the small crack worry makes when it steps onto ice. "Are you in trouble?" "I'm in character," I said, which is trouble adjacent. At home, a manila envelope waited at my door. No return address. My name in a hand that tried to be anonymous and failed at the slant of the M. I carried it to the table and broke the glue with my thumbnail. Inside, a photocopy of my page. January 12th. The coffee stained a darker moon. A red circle around a note in the margin I had written to myself. Call Jay about West Yard weight variance. Driver says forklift scale drifts when cold. The circle was not mine. A yellow sticky note fluttered down like a clumsy bird. "You missed this." No signature. I stared at the page until my eyes watered. The photocopier had caught the faint impression of the previous sheet's pen marks. I held it against the light and could see the ghost of a phone number I'd scribbled and then rewritten elsewhere. The last 4 digits were 7,281. The van plate from Buck's log ended in 481. Numbers rhyme when they want you to notice them. I called Lila again. "Can you run a reverse on 7,281 with local exchanges?" I asked. Already did. 5 matches. One is a law firm's general line. One is a pharmacy. One is the Drexler's Vineyard tasting room, which is unhelpful unless you want irony. One is a co-working space out by the airport. The last one is an internal extension on our floor. "Whose?" "Cameron's desk," she said. For a moment the room narrowed, as if a lens had been turned too tight. I sat because upright seemed like hubris. Cameron, 26. Crisp shirts, the snap of a smartwatch settling against skin. A good kid by most measures, which are unreliable. He kept a photo of his mother on his desk, and he arranged it so visitors would notice without thinking he wanted them to notice. I stood and walked. The elevator was too slow, so I took the stairs and arrived in the call center whooped by my body's reminders. Lila pointed with her chin in a way that read he's there without adding be kind. I found Cameron at a side station with a headset around his neck, like a halo he hadn't earned yet. He rose when he saw me, manners in place. "Marcus," he said, eager. "I loved your memo on Gosh. Really elegant." "I don't write elegant memos," I said. "I write lists." He smiled because he didn't know yet that some jokes are not. "Where do you print the board packets yesterday?" I asked. "On site," he said. Instant. Then I did a spot run at quick copy because the collator jammed, but I kept the proofs in my bag. Why? Did anyone ask you for a decommissioned bin? His smile faltered. What? Did anyone ask you where the shredded paper goes to die? He swallowed. He was at the age where swallowing is a tell. A woman from council. She said she was auditing our chain of custody. She had a letter. It had seals. Renshaw and Lee? I asked. He nodded. How did you know? Because the seals have no soul, I said. What did you show her? Nothing, he said too quickly. I told her to email her request. She laughed. She said email was for interns. And then? And then I told her where the bins are locked up, because she said she'd wait for facilities. I'm sorry. His eyes had glistened the way good kids' eyes do when they realize goodness is not armor. I felt a wave of tired tenderness and then let it pass. There was work to do. We learn, I said. We adjust. Will you do something for me? Anything, he said, and meant it in the way people do before they understand the cost. Print 3 pages for me. Different versions, each with a small error. Deliver one to Alvarez's office, one to the board council, and one to Ellen. Keep Riley's in-house, and don't let it breathe. Won't that be lying? He asked. It will be measurement, I said, and we will calibrate. He nodded as if he were memorizing a catechism. When he turned back to the printer, his hand shook just enough to make me want to stand behind him and steady them. I did not. He has to steady himself. We all do. By evening, I had confirmation via the subtle channels men like me cultivate because we live in the shadows, and the shadows trade in whispers. Alvarez's office had logged the wrong plate number. Board council had flagged the wrong filing date with a note that said, potential felony. Ellen had texted me a single period, which is her way of saying I received what you meant me to receive, and I will acknowledge it without granting it significance. Riley called at 9. Cameron is pale, she said. Should I bring him soup or fire him? Neither, I said. Promote him to someone who won't be fooled again. Then buy him a better lock for his drawer. And the woman? She asked. Is she ours or theirs? She's a bridge, I said, which means she belongs to whoever pays the toll. Dad, she began, but Harper called something in the background about the moon, and Riley said, the moon is for everyone. And I hung on to that sentence the way a man holds a railing after slipping. I wrote late. Not to anyone, not for court. I wrote to the ledger because the ledger listens without interrupting to agree. I wrote what I knew. That power is a series of courtesies arranged to keep you from noticing the lock. That my decency had been mistaken for obedience. That obedience is a moral failure unless you are in a marching band. Near midnight, a text from an unknown number bloomed on my phone. Parking garage. Level C, 10 minutes. Bring the page. I do not go to second locations with strangers. I went. The garage on level C was the color of old breath. Concrete has a way of pretending to be neutral while it remembers everything. My footsteps sounded like someone else's. A car idled in the corner. Lights off. I stood under a lamp that flickered as if it had opinions. She stepped from the shadow with the grace of someone who has chosen her shoes for exit speed. Tall, helmet hair. The law firm tote looked like it had earned continuing education credits. You brought the page? She asked. Her voice in the open air was less ghost and more instrument. Precise. Trained. Designed to carry to the back of a courtroom without sounding like a shout. I brought a copy of a copy, I said, which is how history survives. She smiled without softening. You seeded your drafts, she said. Cute. Measurement, I said. She walked a small circle around me, as if assessing a sculpture that had disappointed her in person. You want a name, she said. I am not a name. I am a category. Call me externalities. Everyone calls themselves that when they want to dodge blame. I don't dodge, she said. I price. Who's paying you tonight? I asked. Whose interests align with mine? She said, which is not the same as paying. The Drexlers like me because I'm thorough. The board likes me because I am discreet. Ellen likes me because I save her time. You should like me because I am telling you the ending you fear. Try me. Your daughter believes in you, she said. That is inconvenient to everyone except you. So we will make her believe you are the one who endangered her. We will take your care clause and call it coercion. We will attach your ghost audits to a narrative of paternal meddling. We will use your decency and your age against you. It's what the system knows how to do. You learned your rhetoric from pamphlets, I said. It shows, she laughed. In the concrete vault, the sound was clean, like glass letting go. Here's what will happen, she continued. One of your canaries will sing. It already has. The board will receive an anonymous memo. In it, a detail from a draft only one person had. That memo will suggest Riley manipulated data to target the Drexlers. It will cite your page as evidence that you rehearsed the conclusion before you had the facts. You sent it, I said. Don't be simple, she said. I wrote it. I don't send things. Men with keys send things. She tilted her head toward the dark car. The driver did not move. Our mistake, she added, almost idly, was underestimating how quickly you learn. Who gave you the page? I asked. She looked at the ceiling as if the answer might be painted there. You did, she said. When you made a home that people could enter without knocking. She stepped back into shadow. 3 days, she said. That's how long before the memo is read aloud in a room where the air is rationed to the important. And what would you like me to do in those 3 days? Choose who you are, she said, as if offering me a menu. The guardian who sacrifices himself noisily, or the ghost who rewrites the terms without anyone noticing. Both are noble if you are the protagonist. She reached for the car door. I said, tell the Drexlers that I understand their math. Tell the board that I understand manners. Tell Ellen that she bores you? The smile finally softened. She knows. The car door opened. She slid inside. The vehicle pulled away without lights, like a fish that has learned electricity. I stood under the lamp until it tired of me and steadied. At home, the ledger waited open on the chair. The page from January 12th lay beside it. A copy of a copy, the coffee stain darker than memory. I wrote a list called Angles. Under it I wrote 3 names in a letter. Ellen Alvarez A. Then, because honesty is the only instrument I trust, I wrote Riley, not as suspect but as vector, the person through whom all currents run, because she is power and people love power the way moths love heat. In the morning, an email arrived in my inbox from an account that did not bounce. Pre-read, board memorandum conflict and narrative risk. Attached, a PDF whose author field read externalities. I opened it. My stomach lifted as if the floor had remembered it was an elevator. On page 4, a detail sang. The van plate ending in 81. That was Alvarez's canary. On page 7, the filing date off by 1. Board counsel. On page 9, the Cousins LLC with 1 letter inverted. Ellen's version, 3 songs at once. Someone had braided my errors into a single rope and thrown it over a high beam. It was a smart play. It meant they had access to all 3 channels, or that all 3 had decided separately to be stupid. It meant I was either being surrounded or I had been walking in a circle and calling it progress. At the end of the memo, a paragraph in italics. We append page January 12th from Mr. Hale's personal ledger as contextual evidence. The coffee stain is a poignant touch. I scrolled. There it was. The stain like a small brown planet around which all our fates now orbited. In the margin, my note, underlined, a caption, pattern seeking in advance of data, perspective bias. It was neat, and it was vicious. The memo did not accuse me of malice. It accused me of inevitability. That is the more devastating indictment. Malice can apologize. Inevitability cannot. My phone rang, the landline. Lila's voice pitched low. You should come downstairs, she said. There's someone here asking for you. She says you owe her a page. Helmet hair? I asked. Different, Leela said. Older, messy bun. Eyes like she hasn't slept because she chose not to. I was already moving when she added. She says her name is Annika. She says she's from the board. And Marcus, her voice crisp. Her last name begins with a. Lila's whisper still rang in my ear when I turned the corner into the call center lobby. Annika Shah was waiting, exactly as described. The bun undone. The sharp jacket creased as though she had balled it in the back seat of a car. Her eyes, yes, unslept and too awake, caught me before I spoke. She did not rise. You walk like a man expecting a trap, she said. I am a man expecting a trap, I answered. She tilted her head, a small smile that didn't ripple upward. Then you'll recognize this. She slid a folder across the counter. It was thin, not heavy enough to bruise. Inside, 3 pages, my 3 canaries, perfectly collated. No notes, no annotations. Just the errors, naked, lined up like suspects in a row. They came together, she said. Braided, as you'd say. I thought you should know. You brought me my own work. Better me than the Drexlers, she said. Or Ellen, she exhaled, pinching the bridge of her nose. They're planning to use this to gut Riley, make her look like she cooked the data. The memo will circulate tomorrow. I fought them for a day's delay. Her words fell cleanly, without drama. That's when I believed her. Theatrics are for liars. Exhaustion is the mark of someone who's already lost. Why tell me? I asked. Because I'm not sure whose game I'm in anymore, she said. And if Riley goes down, I'm next. They'll say I abetted. I need to know which way the floor tilts. I looked at the folder again, my canaries, back in my lap, which meant the leak wasn't hers alone. Someone had gathered them, someone inside. Do you know externalities? I asked. Her mouth tightened. That's not a name we say aloud. That's a role. Outsourced damage. She's not with me. If she's with anyone, she's with whoever wants Riley out and the Drexlers back in. Which means half the board, I said. Or Ellen, she said. She doesn't want the Drexlers, but she doesn't want Riley to succeed without her. I thought of Ellen's period text, that surgical dot. I receive what you meant me to receive, and I will acknowledge it without granting it significance. The elegance of contempt. Annika lowered her voice. There's one more thing. The page the coffee stain didn't come from the Drexlers' camp. I saw the courier log. It was scanned inside this building yesterday. Which terminal? She hesitated. Riley's floor. Back in my apartment that night, the ledger sat on the table like a relic watching its believers lose faith. I didn't open it. I poured whiskey into a chip mug, drank it in 2 pulls, poured another. Outside, traffic stitched through the dark. Could Riley have done it? No, not her hand on the scanner, but perhaps someone close enough to her desk, her bag, her trust. Cameron, the boy who wanted to do good? Or Riley herself, reckless in some tactical calculation I hadn't been invited to share? Love is proof until it isn't. I closed my eyes. January 12th returned. The weight variance, the coffee stain, Harper's blueberries. I had written a note as a reminder, not a prophecy. But the memo made it look like scripture. A father who saw ghosts in numbers and passed the disease to his daughter. They would love that story. It was cleaner than the truth. The phone buzzed. Not the landline this time. My cell. A text, no sender. You have 48 hours to choose. Your claws or your daughter. The whiskey went sour in my mouth. The next morning I went to Riley's office unannounced. Her assistant tried to stall me with a smile and a clipboard, but I walked past. Riley was bent over her desk. Papers spread like wings. She looked up, startled. Dad! I closed the door behind me. Who scanned the page? Her eyes widened and then narrowed. What are you talking about? Don't play. My voice harsher than I intended. It came from this floor. Yesterday. She stood. You think I'd hand them your ledger? That I'd sabotage myself? I think proximity is half of betrayal, I said. The line landed heavier than I expected. She flinched. It wasn't me. Her voice caught. Dad, do you really believe I'd sell you out? I studied her face, the set of her jaw, the veins at her temple. I wanted to believe. God, I wanted to. She came around the desk. Listen, there's someone an aide, maybe feeding them. Ellen's people. Or Alvarez. But not me. Never me. Her hand touched my sleeve, small, insistent. You taught me numbers. You taught me to listen to what adds up. Look at me, Dad. Does this add up? Her touch burned. Shame pooled. I stepped back. Then who? Her answer came quick, too quick. Cameron. He was flustered yesterday, said a woman asked about the shred bins. He's young, Dad. Young people make mistakes. The scapegoat was convenient. Too convenient. I nodded, but my chest remained tight. If it wasn't you, prove it, I said. Find the log. Trace the scan. Show me. She exhaled sharply. I will, but promise me something. What? Don't do this alone anymore. I didn't answer. That night, the apartment felt smaller. The ledger waited. The manila folder with the canaries sat beside it, accusing. The phone buzzed again. A different message. Level D garage. Same lamp. Midnight. Ring Riley. I stared at it. Outside, the city's neon reflected in the window glass like false stars. My reflection stared back an old man. Ledger keeper. Ghost. They wanted her. They wanted me to bring her into the dark. And the worst part? I didn't know whether I should. They wanted Riley at midnight under a flickering lamp. I did what fathers do. I wrote a plan that replaced flesh with inference. I told Riley to sleep, then asked for her green scarf, the one Harper uses as a cape. She left it by my door. I kissed it like a passport. I cued a recorder with a fragment of her laugh from a family video Harper, shouting blueberries. Riley's warm breath cracking at the end. At 11:30, I texted Lila. If I don't call by 12:40, ring the hotline, ask about level D alarms. She replied with a thumbs up, her way of saying I'm already ahead of you. In the cold garage on level D, a lamp stuttered. A car idled in the dark. I stood under the light, let the scarf show, pressed the recorder. Riley's laugh leaked out a thread of sound, then silence. She arrived first, the woman who called herself Externalities. You brought her, she said. You hear what you want, I replied. Annika emerged from behind a pillar, jacket all wrong, hair unkempt. Why is she here? I asked. I didn't invite anyone I didn't need, Annika said. Alvarez thinks I'm home with a migraine. Externalities smiled. Charming. I held up a clear sleeve containing a copied ledger page. Across it, I'd written in Sharpie, chain of custody begins here. Externalities offered a negotiation. My care clause for Riley's reputation. The clause would be renamed provisional access. The Drexlers would remain gone. Alvarez would keep his teeth. Surrender, Annika murmured, as if I might mistake it for compromise. Then Alvarez arrived, smelling of boardrooms and mercy. Marcus, a late walk? At your age? He meant, your time has passed. I laid the sleeve on the hood of his SUV. Beside it, I placed a letter. Record this as a binding addendum. The care clause is permanent, non-provisional. Audits external to the board. In exchange, I withdraw. I endorse Riley as independent. I take my ledger and go home. And if we refuse, Alvarez asked, gracious. Then your memo survives. And so do the packages already in motion routing numbers. A nephew with a camera. A scholarship fund with a taste for cash. Annika stepped forward. If this letter is recorded, I vote yes. If not, I resign and take the three who care about facts with me. Alvarez calculated silently. The clause stands. Permanent, external audits. No sunset, he signed. Annika countersigned. He photographed the page, sent it to counsel. Your turn, Alvarez said, offering the pen. Tomorrow, I said, after I see the recording in the minutes. He smiled. You're not as incorruptible as your daughter believes. I'm exactly as patient as she needs. They left. Annika lingered. You'll never sign that second letter, she said. Not accusing, just predicting. She touched the sleeve. This coffee stain is our era. Upstairs, Lila called. The minutes had been recorded. The clause was intact, but my landline had voicemails, a splice recording of Riley saying she was sorry. Someone built it. Then, an email arrived from Externalities. My signed letter, now Redland. Permanent unless superseded by a unanimous vote if revenues fall by more than 12%. A trapdoor dressed as a safety feature. Riley called, breathless. Dad? They sent me the minutes. It looks good. Did you? A crisp voice cut in. Ms. Hall, we'll need you on the 8 a.m. call regarding narrative manipulation. The line crackled. Dad, what did you sign? Nothing, I said. Yet. A third voice entered Aaron. Marcus? Beyond the line at 8. I ended the call. The landline rang once. A paper voice said, in the morning, you'll choose how to tell your daughter that permanence is a story we sell to children. Children buy it cheaper, I said. Adults buy it wholesale. Silence fell, heavy and gift-wrapped. I stood in the dark until the ledger was no longer an object, but part of the room. Then a knock patient practiced. Alvarez, Marcus? Marcus? We should talk about what unanimity really means. From the kitchen, the answering machine, unused for years, clicked on. A fourth voicemail began. Riley's voice, stitched together with a cold needle. I authorized you to change the minutes. My own voice, patched in. Not just a fake. A lie built from true phrases, torn from their homes. The music of my house. Our enemy had the sheet music. Alvarez knocked again. 8 o'clock will come faster than you think. I let him stay outside. I unplugged the smart outlet Cameron had installed. The machine kept recording. The command came by phone. I called Lila. They're using remote codes. Trace the tones. She did. The signal hopped from externalities through a law firm, then through Ellen's office. They're playing you like an instrument, Marcus. Riley isn't off the menu. Then we make them choke on their own melody. I drafted an email to the DA. Release if altered. Call me at 8:16. At 7:58, I joined the board call. Faces like tarnished coins. Counsel began. We've received an anonymous document alleging paternal. Read the footer, I said. Aaron Reed. Blueberries belong to the moon. What the hell is this? The sound of chain of custody, I said. Externalities unmuted. Skip the poetry. Annika cut in. I moved to record. The addendum signed at 12:19 a.m. is permanent. Any alteration is a violation. I projected the photo of the signed page on the hood of the SUV. No trapdoor. Silence. Recognition. Then, at 8:15, my inbox lit. From District Attorney. Release confirmed. My doorbell rang. Ellen stood there, barefaced, hair tied tight. Alvarez behind her. Another shadow in the corridor. Inside, the machine played the spliced recording on loudspeaker. My voice, cut into I admit. The ledger lay under Riley's green scarf, like a chest under breath. Close the door, Marcus, Ellen said. Not a request, a command. We have exactly 2 minutes before the story. The story picks its owner. Thanks to stay with me until now. And for listening to my story. See ya.